Hi, this is John.
All right.
I am back live. Thanks for your patience, everyone. We got that connected.
All right, so you can take it away talking about the fitting process, and I will get my screen shared again.
Sure, great. So again, my name is John Long. I own Fleet Feet Marathon Sports. I've been in the running, really been running since the early 80s, have been in the industry since 1991 as an owner. We've come out to Medtronic and done fittings at several sites for over a decade. Really enjoy the process. We appreciate your support of our sport through the Twin Cities Marathon and all the other events you do. Really kind of touching on the video, I think the most important aspect that we find when somebody starts exercising, and I was able to take a peek at the poll, whether you're a walker or runner, I think it all applies to having the correct footwear. We really see it makes a huge difference kind of in the success of your exercise program. You're walking, you're running, really any activity you're going to do, being in the correct footwear really makes a big difference. I wanted to show some footwear that I won't be able to show as far as talking about fitting. I think it's when you go to get fit, and a lot of people here probably have been fit. I always say there's not a best shoe on our wall. We get asked that a lot. What is the best running shoe? What is the best brand? There is not a best brand. It's the best brand that's there for you. And, all of the major brands make really good footwear. It really comes down to getting into the best footwear for you. And I think in the video that we've put together is we really kind of try to highlight the elements you should have in place when you go to get fit. That you're coming in prepared to try on other things. You're prepared to get fit. The 3D scan has really been a game changer for us, really allowing us to see the foot kind of in multiple planes. The Brannock scale, which was used to fit feet for literally since the late 1800s, is what we used until about 5 years ago. There's been variations of digital scales, but really the 3D scanners really allowed us to take that next step up as far as fitting and really finding the right footwear for people. Probably the biggest thing we've seen using the scanner is the variances in people's feet, not only in width but in depth of your foot when we put you into footwear. And one of the things we've seen grow a lot in our business is the use of widths, both narrow in particular. We've seen a real large growth in wider shoes as well. And finding the best shoe for your foot then really becomes an element of your foot type and how we're using it. So when we talk about brands, currently I think one of the things that we've talked about is the super shoes, and people have had a lot of questions on that. Even walkers have asked us about using carbon shoes, and I wanted to show a couple highlights that I won't be able to do it in person. But for you to see that, and when it comes to fitting, there's a lot of questions about how people want to fit feet, and I know we left some time for questions. If there's anybody who has questions on their fitting or experience, I would certainly love to cover that before we talk about some of the exercise goals. So if we want to open up that, Anna, that would be great.
Yes, definitely. So if you have any questions about a fitting you've experienced, you can post in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and ask your question right here, or anything you've been dying to know about a particular shoe. This is your opportunity to ask all of those questions right here.
So I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so often when I go to get a new running shoe, the person will ask like, what have you used in the past? And sometimes I'm sort of like looking to branch out, or I don't really, maybe what I've used in the past isn't the best. So I feel like that's a dilemma. I want to say like, well, I've used this, but don't just put me in that shoe. I'm not really sure. Like I've had a baby, I'm different now, so maybe I need a different shoe. And how do you approach that?
That's a great question. There's a lot of different reasons that we'll ask what you've been in. I think some of it is, it gives us a track record, and every store is going to be a little different in how they look at that. One thing that happens with footwear is, and I've been fortunate, being in the industry and seeing some studies that were done that people actually get used to the feeling of a certain brand's durometer of their cushioning. So when someone's been in a brand, sometimes they get used to that, and that is their perception of comfort. So if someone, let's say you always have worn Nike, it's always been the shoe you've worn since high school. When you put on a shoe, your body will sense that that is a comfort level to you, like the midsole material of that shoe or how it fits. I don't think it's a telltale of what you should be in, though. I think you really want to try shoes on. Our goal is always we bring up 3 different shoes almost every time, unless you walk in and say, hey, I absolutely love Saucony. I've had, numerous pairs. I've been healthy and happy. Then we'll keep you in that shoe. But it really is kind of just lets us know a roadmap of what you've had and whether it's been successful or not. If somebody comes in and they say, I've worn Brooks, but I've not been real happy with them, we kind of know then to direct them maybe towards a similar shoe, but not the same brand. I don't know if that answers your question or if you want me to elaborate from that.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
And we had a great question. Obviously this is Fleet Feet from Minneapolis, but there are Fleet Feet outfitters across the country. I know that this could be potentially a global audience too, depending on where you're calling in from. But yeah, maybe finding a Fleet Feet that's near you, and then, or just getting fitted somewhere that's near you from a different running store.
Yeah. One thing that we have, if you go to the Fleet Feet website, you can put in your zip code. It'll lead you to the nearest store in your locale, wherever you are. That being said, I will do a PSA for kind of all run specialty. I think across the country, and I've been involved heavily with the independent stores as well. Going to a store that is committed to the running community and they've been in the community, those local stores usually have a really good handle on kind of what's happening with the footwear. They're vested in your community. I would suggest finding one of those, just initially to get fit. We do have an online presence as well. And I think a lot of that is benefited by actually getting fit in the shoes, though, because they do change, over time. We'll see sizing change. You'll be in a shoe. Like I was in a particular shoe for probably at least 15 years, and it changed. And then I kind of got thrown out, and I'm in the business, and all of a sudden I had to find a new shoe that really worked well for me. So I think, going out, getting fit, talking to them about the sizing, and taking advantage of that expertise and them looking at it with you can help the journey. So you're in something that ends up being successful for your exercise too.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You have the return policy if a shoe isn't working for you after you've been running in it for a little while. How do you know if it's the shoe or if it's an issue with the socks you have or an issue with your gait?
It could be all 3. There's, for a variety of reasons, shoes won't work or will work. We really have that in place just so that the customer is confident in when we're fitting them that, we're putting the best shoe forward for them and that it's a product that fits their foot well. If they end up running into problems, a lot of people ask me, even other shoe stores like, wow, that you must get a lot of returns. And we actually really don't. We really take pride in getting you in the right shoe and the right thing. But if it's not working, that's what that's there for. Having the correct socks, is something we go through in our fit process where we'll talk about having a technical sock, a sock that fits your foot well, that addresses your foot type too is important. When it comes to injuries, I would say the vast majority of what we see when someone is having an issue, it can be related to, their Achilles is tight. They need some hamstring strength work or core work, or I think there's a lot of things that the shoes sometimes tend to be the catch-all if somebody has an injury, and it isn't always the shoes. Now, it certainly can be, but it is one of those things where it's part of the puzzle, but not all of it. So does that answer your question or kind of help what you were looking for?
Yeah, so if you are having an issue, you can always just come back in and kind of make sure that you have all the right things going on with your socks and your shoe fit. If that makes sense.
And then we have another question.
I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I was just saying that Your answer made sense to me.
Okay, great.
So we have another question from Marie. She says, is there an important feature or what's important in a shoe if you have a high arch?
Okay, yeah, great. That's a good question. When we have a high rigid arch, what we want to look for is a shoe that's going to have good flexibility and cushion. So when an arch is higher, it is more rigid. So you want to have something that's going to be softer under the foot, just because that foot's going to absorb so much more. A lot of people that have high arches, I call them hard walkers. You'll hear them walk on the floor above you if they're barefoot on hardwood, and you hear them hitting the ground a lot harder. So we want to look for a shoe that's going to accommodate into the arch. So typically, those type of shoes have a little bit higher arch, and they're more flexible just to take that absorption. You want to make sure you have, obviously, when we're fitting, we want to look for snug in the heel, snug in the midfoot, which addresses the arch, and then an open forefoot that allows the toes to splay, but with cushioning. So high arch, really, I always say people with high arches tend to get the fun shoes because they always tend to be I have very flat feet, and flat feet shoes, for some reason, the companies decide we like gray shoes and dark colored shoes. It seems like the people with higher arches always get the fun colored shoes. So you really want to look for something that's going to be flexible and cushioned and fit into that arch.
Perfect, thank you. Another question, someone asked, should I scan every time I go to get a new shoe? So how often should you get the fitting done, basically the ID scan?
Sure. I like to do it every time. It kind of varies, and we'll really listen to what the customer or the runner says. If you're just picking up a shoe and you got one 3 months ago, depending on your time frame, I think it's kind of nice to do. We've had it now. We're going into our 5th year of having it in the store. We had one of the early models, so we have people that have been scanned multiple times. I haven't seen a lot of changes in people's feet, but sometimes it'll address an issue. Like I just had a customer that she's been struggling. She's had a bunion on one foot that's been bothering her, and we actually went back and looked at scans that we've done, over the last several years, and we can see a difference in the scan in as far as the depth of her foot. So it wasn't necessarily the length got longer, but we could see that the girth around the spot where she has the bunion had gotten bigger. So it is helpful in that sense, especially if you're having an issue like that, just to keep a track record. Our feet generally stay the same. I mean, we'll see some slight maybe drop in arch, or we'll see a difference in sizing, but it is helpful. I mean, I think if you have it and you have the time, it's a great thing to do. And it only takes, you can get the scan done in a matter of, 30 seconds from the time you type your name until you have the scan done. So the scanner uses HD cameras to create the image.
Right.
So
hey, Anna, I have a question.
Great.
The question is, how often should we replace our running shoes, or what should we look for in our shoe to tell us that we need to replace it?
Sure. So, the rule of thumb is we go off of mileage, how long someone has used the shoes. I like to see people go about, we suggest 400 miles is kind of the cornerstone that people will use. And everybody's different. It depends on how the shoe fits and feels for you. Let's say you're wearing the shoe. If you're using the shoe every day, and you're wearing it outside of running, I think 6 months is kind of the rule of thumb that I use. If you're dedicating it to running, you want to count the miles on the shoes. I think once we get to around 400, the life expectancy of the shoe and really the properties for cushioning and support do start to break down at that point. So give or take. Everybody's different. Just as an example, I have a friend, he is in excellent shape. He's a larger guy, does a lot of weightlifting. He probably weighs 225 to 230. He can go 1,000 miles in a pair of shoes. He's one of the most efficient runners I've ever seen. It's incredible. And then we have a 9th grade girl who's a cross-country runner who is very small, and she probably will go through a shoe in 250 miles just the way she's wearing the shoe. So I think some of it is kind of how you wear the shoe as well. Is that any questions on that further?
No, that was helpful. Thank you.
And we will capture all of the questions you're asking in the chat. And then if we can't get to them right now, we'll definitely send you a follow-up email with those questions. Just for sake of time, we'll just move. We have a few more slides of some information on how you can apply some running tips. And then we'll have a little more time for questions at the end. So feel free to keep throwing your questions in the chat. We'll get to them as we can. And if we can't answer them here live, we will definitely send you a follow-up email. So just make sure we can see your name in there. So here are just a few tips, particularly speaking to the beginner exerciser or the walker, or even if you are, training for a race. Here are just a few tips to keep in mind as you start preparing for a race or just preparing to exercise in general. So get motivated. Motivation typically comes after action. I have so many people ask me all the time, how do you get motivated to work out? And sometimes I'm not, and that's totally fine. It's typically that motivation comes after you get your shoes on or after you get ready, get your playlist going. So here are a few tips to kind of get you started. So the first would be to make a plan. Whether you are training for a race or you are just trying to get in your 10,000 steps a day, whatever it may be, make a plan so that you can accomplish it. So that's similar to setting a goal. Every habit we have is made up of a group of cues, a reward, and a routine. So the group of cues would be particular music, getting the environment we're in. So maybe that's going outside, getting your running shoes on, or maybe you just finished up a work meeting and you're planning on exercising after that. And then a reward would be something that we do every time that we finish whatever our goal may be, whether it's your reward is those healthier together points, or maybe it's a smoothie, or you have a long-term reward of maybe going on a trip after you run a race or something like that. And then a routine, working out at the same time every day, if possible, or having that set time scheduled in to your routine. And then make your plan vocal and visible. So verbalize it to a friend, email it to a colleague if you want an accountability buddy, and then make it visible. Write down your plan on a schedule and post it on your fridge, or write down your goals on a Post-it and put it near your computer so that you can see it every single day. And then build a support system. Equip your routine with things that will make you feel good, whether that's you have your awesome playlist that you like to run to every time, or having your accountability buddy that you maybe text with, or maybe that you go and meet up with to work out with, or it could be joining a live stream if you don't want to be around other people still. That's totally fine. You can join a live stream and chat so you still have that support system. And then get moving, trying to get into the regular exercise habit. We always suggest that if you are truly just starting exercise for the first time, talk to your doctor before you begin so that you know anything that you need to be concerned of, to watch for, and then getting the right gear. So that's why we brought in Fleet Feet today to talk about shoe fittings, but then also finding comfortable clothing that works for you. And you don't have to have the fancy Garmin or the crazy expensive Apple Watch, any sort of way to track your exercise. Maybe that's simply you writing down, I went on a walk around the block, and you can use Google Maps to track that out. Or you can use your phone. Pretty much everyone has a smartphone these days, and that tracks your steps there as well. Or you can get an old-fashioned pedometer if you want, and using that so that you can keep track of your exercise so you can stay on your progress. And then if you're still apprehensive about running, or you want to get into running, you're not sure how to start or how to get there, start by walking. There's always, walking is the perfect way to lead into running, or you can do an elliptical or an exercise bike or group fitness classes, something to just get you started to transition into running, because I understand it can be very daunting if you're not familiar with it. And then the next would be to sneak in other activity throughout the day. So there's a lot of research done that just by standing up and taking a 5-minute walking break every hour. So say you have an 8-hour day and you walk 5 minutes, maybe just around your house every hour, that can burn up to an additional 300 calories per day. So sneaking in that other activity, that's standing up while you're waiting for your Zoom meeting to load, maybe do a few stretches, or walking up the stairs and down the stairs once in between meetings. So just sneaking in that other activity when you can. And then once you do start running, try to find your pace. A lot of people, once they kind of like, I'm going to go on a run, they try to go out way too fast. And then they're like, I can't keep up with this. Then you get discouraged. Then you may never go on that run again. Try starting off, walking, and then just a little bit faster than walking, and to find a pace that's comfortable for you, finding that cadence that's going to be best for you. And for some people, it can be hard to run with others. I find that super challenging because I want to keep up with my friends, or maybe I feel like I'm going too fast or going too slow. So try it on your own and find your pace that is going to be best for you. And then lastly, stay flexible. There are so many things that are going to come your way. Say you have a 30-minute workout planned, but the cards don't line up for you. Stay flexible in that plan. Maybe you have to break it into 3 10-minute exercise bursts instead of that 30-minute workout. It's still going to give you the same benefits. And here are just some general fueling guidelines. We won't go into too much depth about this. Just wanted to give this if anyone was interested in what they should eat before their meal. If you have any questions about fueling in particular, feel free to post in the chat, and then we can, like I said, send you an email after, or try to answer it now too. So it all depends on the type of exercise you're doing. If you're planning on going on those longer runs, anywhere like greater than 75 minutes, then you should consider that intra-run snacks, so some sort of fueling within. In most cases, if you are training for a half marathon, a marathon, or even an ultra marathon or Ironman, those kind of races, you've already been talking and figuring out which kind of fuel that you need to have. But this is just something to consider. And then my biggest suggestion would be to make sure you do fuel before and after your exercise, whether that be something as small as half a banana, or a few bites of an apple, or half of a sports energy bar, some dry cereal, that pre-run snack, so that you have that fuel to get you through. And then most of all, hydrate as necessary. But if you're not hydrated when you go out on that run, even if you are doing like a fasted morning run, make sure you drink that water so that you can stay hydrated. As many of you probably joined our hydration webinar, you can see how important hydration is. And then for post-run, timing is the most important thing to consider here. So after you get back from a run, or even a workout in general, within 2 to 3 hours, you want to have some sort of meal, high in carbs, moderate in proteins, and within 30 minutes of that exercise for the best results. So here are just a few examples of some types of foods that you would want to consume. And I'll let John take it away with 3 key workouts that we have for you here.
Hi, that was a lot of great tips. I've just kind of been watching the questions in the chat, and I think it's a universal question: running versus jogging, and what is the difference? And that really comes down to the person. An elite athlete, a jog for an elite athlete might be running a 7-minute mile, and a jog for someone who is walking and running might be a 14-minute mile. So I don't think there's really a difference in the two, other than it's how fast you're moving. And even then, for someone's run would be another person's jog. And I think some of it's just terminology. If people call it the jogging craze or the running phase, it really comes down to, how you do it. And I think the low to moderate pace we call easy running, or warm down pace, is also considered jogging. So a term that I've heard used, and a friend of mine who's a physician at the Mayo in Jacksonville says, he's a big believer that movement is medicine, whether you're jogging, walking, or running. So I think just the benefits of getting out and moving, and starting an exercise routine, or and if that means getting up and walking from your desk for 5 minutes and back, that's great. So kind of the workouts we're going to talk about, I think you could apply these to everything from elite training. And these are 3 workouts that, we're very fortunate here. We have a staff. There's several people that have been on the Team USA program. I've had an opportunity to coach at the high school and collegiate level. That we kind of looked at 3 workouts that can be applied to anyone that can kind of change up your week and really help with your fitness. I like to keep them simple. One of our general managers, who is a Team USA athlete on the training group here, he came up with the term Fast Friday. And I kind of like this. It's kind of a fun term. This is something you can do before you kick off your weekend. And really on that day, one of the functions of getting in better shape, I think all of us, and I'll even use myself as an example, that I'm no longer competing. I'm still doing some road races here and there just for fun with my family or my daughters. That we get in the routine of running the same pace all the time. That you go out, you run every day, and it's run the same courses or you do the same thing. And the idea of Fast Friday is that you'll go out whatever distance it is for your fitness. Now what I'm describing here in Part A would be more probably for an advanced person who's training for a specific like half marathon, 10K, or an event like that wants to go harder, is to just add in like a 15 to 20 minutes at a harder pace, definitely running a harder pace than you normally would on a regular run. So this is a little bit longer workout maybe for some people, but you warm up easy jog. So that jog would be, easy effort, and then plan on, if you have a Garmin or you have an Apple Watch or your phone, set it for, even if it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes, run harder than you normally would or walk faster to apply it to walking. And really kind of put an effort into that. And how I judge that, and I think the easiest way for people to understand it is, it would be hard for you to carry on a conversation for that period of time that you're running. If you're doing it with someone, you're not really going to be doing a lot of chatting, where you would be able to do that on the warm-up and warm-down. The benefits of doing a tempo run like that really allows you to build some quick ability. It gets your legs to turn over at a faster pace than you're normally used to, and it kind of shakes you out of your routine. Planning one day a week like that, it kind of gives you something to look forward to. It's a little bit exciting to say, hey, I'm going to do this harder workout. Part 2 of that, and this is one that I like to use for a lot of beginners as well. There's a whole bunch of different names for doing this. One of them is a Finnish term. It's called farklet, where you'll go out and run. You'll warm up for a mile, so an easy mile warm up or a jog. And then for, whether you start out at 5 minutes or you go up to 20 minutes, run 1 minute harder and then run 1 minute at a jogging pace. And what that does is it really kind of, it snaps your body into a position where you start getting used to going harder with the recovery. So that's kind of 2 of the simple workouts that I would suggest for doing your own Fast Friday, whatever day that would be. The other one that we really looked at was the long run, and this is probably going to get the most attention for people doing a marathon, people doing a half marathon. What you want to do is add up your distance and do a longer run at maybe a slower pace than your average training pace, and that's going to be different for everyone. But that would be at a conversational pace where you take walk breaks as needed. I'm a big believer in that. I think a lot of the long runs, even for marathoners, I think it's getting used to time on your feet. When we're doing the Fast Friday or the tempo run or a longer sustained effort or the 1 minute hard, 1 minute easy, that's going to be a little bit more of aerobic work, or anaerobic, excuse me. So you're going to be taxing your system a little more. The long run's going to be pure aerobic. So it's just time on your feet, getting out, burning more calories for a longer period of time at an easier pace. And again, that's something that we're going to see a lot of marathoners build into and use that. But now if you're a walker or you're out running easy, maybe pick one day a week where you don't run on a Wednesday, and on Thursdays you're going to run, your normal run is 25 to 30 minutes. You're going to run 50 minutes that day if you have time. So, and I always tell people to kind of plan that longer run around a day that works for you. If you're in a climate, and everyone's kind of from all over here, but if you're in a climate where it's cold, look for the warmer day to do that outside if you're going to be outside. And, on a treadmill, we also have that opportunity, just set the pace at a lower pace and do it longer on the treadmill. So pick that day. the last workout, and I think this is one of probably my favorites. Do your regular run, and at the end of the run, do up to 10 strides. Even now I put 100 meters on there, but if it's just to the end of your block, or a distance that's shorter, up to 100 meters, get out, do your regular run. What I find, if my legs feel if I don't feel great, sometimes I'm feeling sluggish or had a long day, adding those on at the end of a run, I find really tends to kind of help your legs feel better the next day. If you're a walker, you walk, just jog a little bit, even just move a little bit more. It just allows the legs time to recover. I think it kind of snaps you out of it a little bit, and that is exactly something that I find is really nice to do. And a lot of the athletes I've worked with will incorporate that, where they'll do that a couple times a week, just to kind of keep your legs fresh. And believe it or not, sometimes going faster or doing a stride like that, so the stride would be done at a pace faster than your running pace, really can help your legs feel a lot better. I know that was kind of a lot to throw at everybody pretty quickly, but are there any questions on any of these?
And like Kyle mentioned, we've been capturing all of these questions, and we'll follow up with John on those fitting ones and other ones that we can't answer. And we'll send this out to everyone. Just for the sake of time, I just want to make sure everyone can get these last few little tidbits of information on kind of next steps. So we do have the links here. And like I said, I'll be sending out this slide deck to everyone. If you are interested in training for a 5K, 10K, half, or full, we've got training plans listed here. And then be sure to register on Healthier Together to track your progress and get rewarded. And then visit our YouTube channel. We have rehabilitation exercises and post-run stretch videos. So to help keep that, to prevent injuries. So stretching and some rehab exercises. And then coming up, we have the virtual 5K. That's going to be September 10th through the 12th. Registration will open at the beginning of September. And then even further on from that, we have the Global Step Challenge the month of October. So registration will open late September. And then lastly, if you have more specific questions, or you want an accountability buddy, or you want some specific health coaching to help you reach your goals, please reach out to any of our well-being specialists. Our contact information is at the end of this presentation, and you can have free one-on-one health coaching with any of us. And then I'll let John speak to this last slide here.
Hi. Yeah, it's so kind of covering. So for all Medtronic employees, we do a 20% discount ongoing. And so that's always available, and we will do free shipping. That is from our store. So if you're in an area that you're going to a different Fleet Feet, you'd want to talk to that specific store on what they do. We also do a $15 rewards program for purchases, but most of the Fleet Feets work directly with employers, so that would be worth asking them. If you do need to have any orders, you can certainly call. That's our number. That will be our direct. We do have an online presence, but we can't offer the Medtronic discount on that. Just the way that our system is set up, we can't apply those discounts for you. So if there's any questions on that, we really appreciate being able to work with everyone. It's one of our, we look forward to getting back in person again, and hopefully being back out on the campus someday soon. So it's been an honor for us to come out and work with you guys. And again, supporting the marathon here in the Twin Cities and all the events you do worldwide for health too is greatly appreciated from all of us. So we really enjoy working with everyone. And any questions, feel free to shoot them to us, and we will try to get you the best answers we can.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, John, for joining us today. Here is contact information if you're interested in health coaching or any other questions. And I will be emailing out the slide deck and responding to all these questions in an email probably early next week, so we can compile all of the questions and make sure everyone gets those answers. So this is your last chance. If you have questions, throw them in the chat, and we will send the responses out to everyone. Thank you for bearing with us with the technology, issues. Everyone's dealt with it. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Can I ask my question, since I don't think it got addressed?